You don't get to go outside. I just take you outside one time. And you think you get to go out every time.
That's why he's so whiny.
No.
Loves it out there.
We're not going outside, buddy. Oh my gosh. Most dramatic cat. I just need everyone to know right now. If you're thinking of getting an orange cat, don't. The rumors are true. They're vocal, they're sassy, they're weird. Are you done, Henry? Okay. Anyway.
Okay.
Rabbit trail over.
Welcome back to Telltale.
Where cats are annoying.
Yeah.
Sassy boy.
And plentiful.
Yes. Henry.
Surrounded. And another William Hope Hodgson video for your Halloween season.
Yeah, spooky reads.
This time, The Voice in the Dawn.
Funny story about this one. I'm going to tell him how.
Oh.
So, Greg had told me, we're going to read The Voice in the Night by William Hope Hodgson. But for some reason in my brain, The Voice was all I caught from that text message. So I'm looking in my Adrift on Haunted Seas collection of William Hope Hodgson, completely skipped over that there's a voice in the night, and went right to reading The Voice in the Dawn. First of all, shame on William Hope Hodgson for naming them so closely to each other.
Exactly.
Is there a voice in the afternoon?
Yeah.
Voice
in the early evening?
Yeah. A voice in the twilight hours? I don't know. But anyway, so that's the story of how now we're reading A Voice in the Dawn and doing a video. It was not planned. No. This is one of those happy accidents where, like, let's just step into the flow of it. So, yeah.
And the two stories do have a voice that calls out over the ocean.
So it's still a voice.
Kind of a theme that Hodgson was doing.
Mm-hmm.
But this story is much, much later than Voice of the Night. Voice of the Night was 1907. This wasn't published till 1920. And this one is actually part of a series of stories that he wrote about the Sargasso Sea.
Which I did not know.
Right.
But it's cool.
Sargasso Sea is a real thing. We hear about today how we get collections on the ocean of plastic that turn into islands. Well, before there was plastic, you had seaweed that would collect like that, and so sailors like Hodgson would see these floating islands in the ocean where there's all these weeds that were gathered together by the currents
just
and the winds, and and some of them actually grew like that then. So this story is another story about a ship that encounters the Sargasso Sea, where there's this very unusually large island of seaweed, which has ships buried in it.
Yes. And a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of foreshadowing in this one. So do you want me to do the synopsis?
Okay. Go ahead with the synopsis.
So while this ship is out in the middle of the sea, there's a storm. And after the storm, the captain kind of already suspected that they were going to encounter this large weed because they were just in the vicinity of where it sometimes shows up, and he thought the stirring up from the storm would probably have some of it float in their direction based off headwinds and whatnot. So, of course, the next day, yes, the storm is gone, but the weed island is there, just overgrown and crazy. And while they're kind of like seeing it in the distance, they hear something calling out, "Son of man, son of man, son of man," multiple times. And then they hear some kind of piping, whether that means singing or an actual pipe or flute, I don't know. But they heard something melodic following this sound. And so they're like, we gotta investigate. They're too super curious. They kind of want to wait and let things settle down because the ocean's still choppy. So they decide to take a dinghy, some equipment, that sort of thing, and head over there and explore to see if they can figure out where this voice is coming from and if there's someone who needs rescuing. Mm-hmm. So they start traversing this whole island, and along the way they're just seeing these amazing creatures. Tons of crabs, enormous monstrosities of crabs. Mm-hmm. Something alludes to some kind of like giant octopus thing. Mm-hmm. Some foreshadowing of things that they aren't sure were there.
Yeah.
Like just seeing shadows in these caverns amidst the weeds, and then, of course, an engulfed ship that they go and investigate to see if anybody's on board and if that's where the voice is coming from. They find no signs of human life or anything that could make that voice.
Right. But the ship is totally overgrown with the weeds.
Yeah, there's no way. The ship it's too old, it's spongy. They're able to, like, kick their feet through the hull, so they don't think... It's unlikely that anybody would have survived from that because of how old the shipwreck seems and how dilapidated it is. So they go back to their ship, and they're kind of hanging out, doing their own thing, reevaluating things. They hear it again. So they get back in the dinghy, and they're like, come on, we got to at least do one more round and do our due diligence before we head out and just leave it to the mysteries of the sea. So they do another traversing around, see everything that they saw, see a little bit more, get the shakes and shudders from the things that they think they see or things that are kind of creeping on them. They start having like this sense of doom and foreboding. And finally they just go back to the boat and they're just like, we've done all we can. Like, we can't find anyone. There's no reason there should be a voice coming from here that we can see. And even if there is a voice, it probably is further in the weeds or further inland on this huge island, which is several miles in diameter. So they're like, I mean, we can't help what we can't find.
Yeah.
And so they kind of just end there, just hearing the voice in the distance and haunting them and just having no sense of being able to figure out where it's coming from. So yeah, this is another William Hope Hodgson story where you kind of have an ambiguous ending. There's really, the sense of hopelessness is the horror. Yeah. There's nothing they can do. They don't want to venture onto the island because they've already seen some crazy-ass animals and sea creatures coming out of it. It's just too dangerous for them to do anything about it. And Son of Man, what does that even mean? Like, it sounds so unearthly.
Yeah.
Why would it be calling that if it was something of Earth?
It sounds like religious.
Yeah. It's like a allusion to Christ. He was often called Son of God and Son of Man for theological reasons, to kind of depict that he was both fully human and fully God, according to the theologies that most Christian cultures are approved by. So it could be religious. It could be that something that wasn't human was calling to something that they knew was.
Yeah.
Could be any number of things. But that's the mystery of it. You don't know.
Yeah, and that's the power of Hodgson, is he leaves it a complete mystery. You don't get tidy answers from this. If you want a nice wrapped up fully explained ending, you're not going to get it from Hodgson in these stories. What makes the stories compelling is the mystery, how it does leave so much for your mind to wonder about and paths for your own imagination to go down and find your own explanations, solutions, whatever, as to what has happened. So he just leaves it a mystery, an enigma sitting on the ocean that you can't explain.
Yeah.
And it probably was. There probably were a lot of things back then with the ocean that were like that, that were enigmatic, that they really didn't know what it was.
Yeah, there's nothing they could do about it anyway, because you're kind of stuck on a
certainly
boat.
Some of the creatures, they didn't see them well enough to know what they were.
Yes, and there's a lot of allusion to the potential that just being out on the sea and this unknown giving them the heebie-jeebies, you have this sense of an unreliable narrator. So you aren't sure if what they're seeing is real or if it's just the overall mood of the crew. And he even kind of admits that at certain points in the story, too, where he alludes to, like, maybe we saw something, maybe we didn't. And honestly, I feel like the description of the story just told by me is not as good as the story is written at all. Like, I can't do it justice because there is such a very specific tone that's set with the way Hodgson writes. It sounds boring probably coming out of my mouth, but reading it is anything but.
Yeah, and I'm finding that I really love that kind of writing, especially since I just recently read Something Wicked This Way Comes. Bradbury, his style isn't quite as difficult to read as, say, like Nathaniel Hawthorne, but he still has a more crafted, more poetic, more interesting to read way of wording that isn't just, a lot of
It's
writers
poetic.
today just write the way they talk.
Yeah.
Writers like Bradbury, Lovecraft, Poe, Abraham Merritt, William Hope Hodgson,
Even William
Nathaniel
Shakespeare.
Hawthorne,
Even back to William Shakespeare.
They were concerned about how it all goes together to create a sound. Which when you're reading, you hear it in your head, and or if you speak it aloud, you can hear it, and it's beautiful and it's captivating, and it makes a story.
It really sets a mood.
They don't have to have a plot because their words are so interesting to read.
I always
so
call it poetic.
captivating
It's
to
almost
read.
like reading
Yeah.
poetry where it just flows together so well in such great prose that you're just like, one line leads into the other to make it so compelling to read the complete story.
And the reason that kind of writing always seems really old to people is because prose writing came out of poetry. First you
Yes.
had poetry, and then people started writing novels in the 1700s. But when they started writing novels, they had that sense of writing it like a poem or writing it like a Shakespearean play. And so you had a lot of that style into that writing. And these days, too many people just don't have time for that. They just want it to be like normal people talk. Well, that's not, that's throwing away the craft of putting words together.
Yeah. It's all well and good. I mean, if the story's compelling enough, the language maybe isn't that big of a deal, but these ones, it is everything about the way they are structured is intentional.
Yeah.
And not
it's
every
what
story
creates
is
the
like that.
atmosphere and the feeling of it.
Sometimes the
piece.
plot's intentional, but the way it's written isn't necessarily. Like the word choice is different.
Yeah.
This is so specifically catered to set a mood. It's anything but boring, despite the fact that I probably made it sound really boring. But it was so compelling to read. Everything just flows together. And it's like the ocean. Everything flows together
Yes.
in a conglomerate of mystery. So, yeah. Anyway, this is the copy that I have these collections in.
Yes, and I have it in volume 1 of the collected fiction of William Hope Hodgson by Nightshade Books. The Boats of the Glen Carrig and
Throwing
Other
books around.
Nautical Adventures.
Oh, I woke
Woke
the
her
sleeping
up.
kitty. I wonder if they can hear her snoring a little in the thing.
Why?
Let us know if you can comment and let us know if you can hear my cat snoring because she's right by the microphone snoring and it's adorable. But anyway, Adrift on Haunted Seas is the one that I have. That's Cold Springs Press. This is a really nice little collection.
That's a good book too. Great
It's fantastic.
illustration.
Yep. It is a little more accessible than the ones that Greg has because his collection is older and well kept and bought originally and stunning though. Oh my goodness. I can't get over how beautiful those are.
These are.
The foil printing on them is just fantastic.
Yeah, they got that
Super
foil
detailed.
printing, and then inside they have it in black and white.
Yeah. Oh, that's gorgeous.
It's the same illustration.
Oh, that's amazing. Oh, I like the Greek ribbon. Ribbon of things in Greek.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It's all Greek to me.
So,
But yeah, lovely collection, very, very accessible. Everything that of William Hope Hodgson, as far as we know, is public domain. You can find a lot of his stuff on Project Gutenberg.
Yeah,
Collections
for
like
free.
these, collections like these are available all over the place. So, but yeah, if you like Poe, if you like Lovecraft, if you like creepy stuff, if you like the ocean, Samantha, if you like the ocean, his stuff's for you. It's fantastic.
Hodgson is your horror writer.
He is your horror writer. And like this, that was a short story too. I think it only maybe 15, 20 minutes for me to read.
Yeah, but he
So-
did write whole novels. Like
Yes.
Boats of the Glen Carrig is a nautical horror story, and that's a whole novel.
Yeah. So it's just really good. If you're a busy lifestyle like I am, short stories are just a great way of getting good literature in a very short span of time without having to take up a lot of your time And you can still have things like this to enjoy.
Yeah, she can probably read it in the time it takes us to do this video.
Yeah, less than that. I was done 20 minutes ago. No. I read this in 5 minutes. But, yeah, it's just, you shouldn't have to dedicate a ton of time to good literature, and that's what we love about short stories.
And the writer.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of short stories aren't that well written, but some writers like Hodgson, Lovecraft, Poe, they knew how to use that length of a story to be compelling, you know, to get, they knew how to get as much out of it as they could. So you still had a powerful story and pretty excellent characterization and even some world building. You even get a good sense of the place and time. They were able to build all that into a short story. If they're a really good short story writer, they can do that.
And if you follow us, we will do all of the looking for you.
Yeah.
We will recommend to you what is good, high literature, or just really enjoyable short stories. And this was definitely one of them.
Or just fun shoot 'em up space opera.
I wouldn't say that this is a top tale, like we have with other William Hope Hodgsons, but it was definitely enjoyable. A fun little mistake read that ended up being enjoyable. So, but yeah, that's all I got to say about it.
That's it. So come back, like us, subscribe to us, leave comments, check us out on social media, Instagram, Facebook, and come back for more videos. We've got all of our Philip K. Dick stories that will be continuing again in November, and lots more horror for October coming up.
And maybe a few more than we even scheduled, because I'm going on vacation and I have a pile of books I'm bringing with me. So
okay,
sounds good. Thanks for joining us, guys. We'll see you next time.